He's no Einstein, but he can read and write and feed himself just like a big boy. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Apple Tree Media, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with self-defense instructor Trevor DeGroot and the owner of Trinity Training and Security. Trevor, thanks for coming back on the Home Defense Show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Skip. Excited to be here.
Yeah, just give us 30 seconds, your background and Trinity.
Yeah, so a little snapshot of my background. Worked in law enforcement for a little bit, had the opportunity to buy Trinity Training and Security. A couple things we do. We offer some self-defense classes as it pertains to firearms, also medical, scenario-based training, situational awareness, stuff like that. So bunch of different offerings in the self-defense world. We're also a private security agency, so we do private security in a lot of different capacities.
All right. Okay. And security is in the news. Boy, it just seems like, every morning I wake up, I open up my news feed, and it's like you can't make this stuff up. It's like I'm writing a novel here, and reality trumps my imagination sometimes. But the world is in a state of flux right now, just kind of going crazy. You've got, Venezuela, you've got, Iran getting ready to be overthrown. You've got Russia and Ukraine. Is it going to be World War III? There's all this stuff. And in the midst of all of that, we have got, shootings, by ICE agents against activists in Portland and in Minneapolis. And it's just going crazy. But what I wanted to focus on today in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report is, all right, this latest shooting in Minneapolis by DHS. It was an ICE agent, and I'm just going to read some an excerpt of this one article, and then we'll just bat it back and forth a little bit. Basically, okay, the woman who was shot in the head, her name was Renee Good, has ties to an organized anti-ICE network in Minneapolis that trains participants to monitor and interfere with federal immigration enforcement operations, the New York Post reported. Now, that's coming from the New York Post, but I think that's accurate. But just that one sentence, isn't that obstruction of justice? Being trained to interfere with federal immigration enforcement operations. What's your personal opinion on that?
I would certainly think so. I mean, that's an interesting statement. If you just kind of break that down of organized, structured, formal training with a group to conspire to obstruct federal law enforcement officers. I guess if you just kind of like chew on that, that's interesting. I mean, that alone, I don't want to put labels on it, but that sounds very much like a lot of things that are unlawful. I guess I'll just put it that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a label on it for you. I guess I would call that, it's revolutionary, maybe domestic terrorism. But what's interesting, though, is that I can read a statement like that, and most mainstream people won't catch that. It's like, when did it become okay to interfere with law enforcement? And you did time in law enforcement. I mean, what happens when you're trying to make an arrest and other citizens come up and try to stop you, either with their vehicles or physically, grabbing onto you or whatever? It's like, a well-adjusted, sane person would look at that and go, okay, why would you even do that? But everything has become so politically charged that now, in the world that we live in now, there's a good segment of our society that thinks it's perfectly fine and not just allowable, but that it's noble to stand up against a police officer who's trying to do his job. And the kind of people that these ICE agents are arresting, they're like sex offenders, drug dealers. These are not the best of the best. So, but it's interesting that it's all of a sudden it's okay and good and noble to try and run over an ICE agent. And I don't understand why most people um, don't understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you talk about this culture of emboldened individuals, I mean, that's really just exponentially worse when you've got, mayors and individuals dropping F-bombs and emboldening these individuals and really making an effort to define federal law enforcement as the enemy of whatever ideological backing, these individuals have. So when you have that coupled with a culture and groups that think it's acceptable, or I don't know, to get in their heads, they must think it's something good or beneficial somehow to resist and obstruct and otherwise define law enforcement as an enemy, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
It's not a wise decision, in my opinion.
Well, no, not at all. It's not going to end well, no matter what happens, to this ICE agent. I mean, he had to go to the hospital. I guess he's been released, but he did get hit by an SUV, a Honda Pilot. That's a pretty good sized SUV. But you watched the video. Tell us what you saw in the video.
Couple different videos. The one in the article that you sent over where Christy Nome is talking about a group that had formed and they were trying to get an SUV. From what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it was one of ICE's SUVs that they were trying to get unstuck, correct?
Yeah.
And move, and then a group allegedly surrounds them, and this lady then makes the decision to not comply. At least from what I saw in the video, it looked like she threw her vehicle in reverse. There was no audio, so I couldn't hear the commands of the officer, and I have not seen body cam. I don't know if you have, but from what I understand, it sounded like they were telling her to stop, to get out of the vehicle on foot. You see the reverse lights come on, then the vehicle goes forward. The agent, from what I saw, didn't draw his gun until the vehicle started going in his direction. At least my understanding was he must have, just from looking at the video, he must have perceived that he was going to receive death or great bodily harm from that vehicle. And once the vehicle starts going forward, it looks like he draws his weapon, and that's when he fires the shots. And it also appeared that he was struck, with you saying he was leaving the hospital. That would make me think that he was. Do you happen to know what kind of injuries he got? It looked like he was struck in the leg.
Yeah, they weren't life-threatening injuries, so he's not going to die, and I believe he's been released, but he's not back on duty again. Part of the backstory on this particular ICE agent back in, I believe it was June, in Minneapolis, uh, was trying to make an arrest on an illegal in a vehicle, and ended up being drugged uh, quite a distance, by the vehicle, and ended up with 32 stitches. So this was not his first run-in with people like this. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, 6 months ago you were drugged by a vehicle, by one of these people, and now you're trying to do your job, and then you look up and you've got a Honda Pilot coming towards you. Neither one of us are lawyers, so we're not giving legal advice, but in my mind, a 3,000-pound car coming towards you, disobeying commands to stop, that in my mind translates to serious bodily injury, or deadly force, basically. And what's your understanding of the law?
Yeah, my understanding is in the state of Minnesota, if a peace officer believes that they're in danger of death or great bodily harm, that's where it comes to that lethal force threshold, whether it's them or another individual. And I think something you said on the backstory there is important too, on him being drug in the past and having a somewhat similar incident in the past. I think that really speaks to his level of restraint, at least for what I saw from the video. If you just think about that from, let's say an average person's perspective, if if an average person had been hit and drugged by a vehicle in the past, I wonder if they would be a little more apt to have their pistol drawn preemptively, which I did not see that. It again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like he did not draw his firearm until the vehicle started moving forward in his direction. And I think that's a really important piece to that backstory of the level of restraint. And I think it speaks to a cool and calm, collected mentality of, he's not overreactive because of past incidents and that kind of thing. I think that's kind of an important point. That he wasn't overreacting or preemptively having his firearm drawn because of past incidents. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think I think you understand that, right? That's pretty much the way that it happened. Uh, one thing aspect about this that we haven't talked about yet is there seems to be a perception being fomented in our country by a lot of people in the media that federal agents aren't real police officers and that they have no business inside America's cities. I mean, I've heard Senator Chuck Schumer say that ICE has no business inside our cities. And the mayor said, "Get the F of Minneapolis," said, "Get the F out of Minneapolis." It's like they're trying to convince people that federal agents don't have jurisdiction if once they go inside the city limits. That's not my understanding of a federal agency. What is yours?
No, absolutely not. That that is in my yeah, absolutely not correct. That federal law enforcement officers don't have jurisdiction inside a United States state. I mean, that would almost be like saying that state police don't have jurisdiction in a county. That makes no sense. It's
Yeah.
within within a thing, right? So if you're within the United States, that's where federal comes in. They've got jurisdiction in the whole country.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, my opinion, if these cities, I mean, they have their own police agencies. Um, if they had been doing the job themselves, ICE wouldn't even be in there, because there'd be no one for them to go get. But what they do is they'll go ahead and they'll say, well, okay, yeah, we're going to arrest somebody. We're not going to hold them. We're not going to let you know that we hold them. We're just going to bond them out and let them go again. They're forcing ICE to come in, and they went in with 2,000 ICE agents in Minneapolis to clear out all of these illegal immigrants, targeting the ones with, violent crime. And I guess the guy that they were going after here, someone read off on the news this morning, read off the rap sheet for this guy. And he was a child sex offender, among a whole bunch of other things. So this was not the best of the best. I do not understand why the average American citizen would put their life on the line to protect someone like this from being deported and arrested, simply because these are these are bad criminals. But they're making it seem like this one lady, her name was Renee Good. This was her job. What they're finding out is that she was part of an anti-ICE network, and their job is to go around stopping ICE vehicles, stopping ICE agents from making arrests inside of Minneapolis. And my opinion is that there's a lot of money coming in from outside the United States, from maybe places like Russia, Iran, China, to do civilly what they can't do militarily, and that's to overthrow the U.S. government. Um, I don't have any proof of that, but I think that's going to be coming later on. But I guess in my mind, this is chaos. If you want chaos, don't let the police do their job. I mean, it's different. There are times when federal agents are out of control and they need to be stopped, but I don't think this is one of those times. What's your take on that?
No, I don't think so either. The At least from what I understand, and like I said, absent body cam footage and that kind of stuff, I don't think we have all the angles and all the story and all that kind of stuff, which is, the nature of kind of Monday morning quarterbacking anything. But I completely agree with you. I don't think that that was the case here. I don't think that they were, unlawfully, using excessive force on somebody and a citizen intervened or something like that. That is simply not the case in this incident. From what I understand from statements and video, sounds like they were trying to get from point A to point B, and an individual chose to obstruct that path, and then they had to deal with that interjection that she created by putting herself in that
Yeah.
situation.
Well, another report that I had, a news report coming out of Minneapolis, said that Minneapolis can't get enough police officers to come and work in Minneapolis. And that's a trend that we're seeing like nationwide.
Hmm.
And I think it's because, if the city or the mayor or police commissioner or whatever is going to second guess everything that you do, and bring charges against you, it's like, how are you supposed to do your job? And can you even protect yourself if you're being attacked by a criminal? And that's how I see it. I can tend to be a black and white thinker.
I think a lot of that comes from climate too. I mean, if you just think about that from any perspective of any job, if you think about it, even just in this one incident here, where if you're, let's say you want to be a delivery driver, and you're coming into a climate where you can expect that if your vehicle is stuck in the snow, there's going to be a mob that shows up, actively organized groups and individuals. Sounds like they're funded. Um, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting. I didn't realize these were paid positions to obstruct federal law enforcement. That's really, I'm gonna look into that a little further. But if you think of any job like that where there's individuals that are actively opposing what you're doing, a lot of people would say, I'm gonna maybe work in an area that doesn't have that climate and those issues and those strains. So I think when you talk about the trend of what we're seeing nationwide with that, you see quite a bit of movement from professionals shifting to more rural areas like counties, um, cities, and townships that have good relations with the community, that kind of thing. And I think on that point too, when we talk about this like relationship and climate between law enforcement and the community, that is very heavily affected by politicians and mayors and people that say get the F out, and policies that don't back the officers. That all plays. Law enforcement is a very well connected community. They know what policies different agencies have. They'll make the decision based on a whole slew of things, benefits packages, pay, that kind of stuff, but also command staff support. And when you don't have command staff support or community support, you may have issues hiring capable, qualified individuals for that position.
Yeah. Well, who wants to be the Lone Ranger, hung out to dry,
Right.
so to speak? Um, let's uh, let's move this out of the ICE template into just you're a regular citizen, because one possible outcome of this might be that the average citizen, say he's a concealed carry holder and he just carries for personal protection, but now he's out in the street, but he sees that the narrative here is that even a federal agent is not allowed to protect himself if someone's trying to run over him with a vehicle. So the average citizen is going to be tempted to think, well, hold it. If a federal agent can't use deadly force when someone's trying to run over him, then I probably can't get away with it either. I see there's could be a negative outcome there. Just to clear it up to the average citizen, if someone's trying to run over you with a vehicle, are you legally availed the use of deadly force? I know it depends on totality of circumstances and all of that.
It's typically pretty black and white, lawfully, where it says in most states, and I'm of course paraphrasing and not an attorney as you stated earlier, but if you believe death or great bodily harm and some other aspects in certain states is going to befall you or another person, at that point lethal force is justifiable based on the totality of the circumstances if you believe that the only option is lethal force to prevent that death or great or grave bodily harm. So to answer your question without sidestepping it with a typical it depends answer, if somebody is driving definitively in your direction and they're going to run you over, it's my opinion that a reasonable person would believe that that's going to result in death or great bodily harm. Therefore, lethal force would be justifiable in an instance like that.
Well, and if you don't believe that, then let them run over you, and then we can, measure the results. I think, basically, when metal meets human flesh, the metal usually wins. I can't think of any case where that wouldn't be true. But yeah, it's just a crazy world that we live in. But I wanted to clear that up for our listeners because most of our listeners are probably CPL holders or gun owners, all of that. It's my opinion too. Hey, if I'm in the road or on the side of the road or whatever, and someone roars towards me with a vehicle, boy, if I can't get out of the way, I'll probably use my gun. And you can't stop the vehicle. The only way to stop the vehicle is by stopping the driver. And that's what this ICE agent did in that case. It was, a shot to the head, and that did the job. But this is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. I think that you have a bright future, Trevor. Business goes up when times become dangerous and precarious, and we are in precarious times here in America. But one more time before we let you go, tell us how people can find out more about Trinity.
Trinity Training and Security.com is going to be the best option there. There's also Facebook, Instagram options as well, but the website's a great point. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody has any questions, thoughts, or classes they're interested in, trainings, or a security need, we would love to connect.
All right, and I highly recommend them. Trevor, thank you very much for being on Home Defense Show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, and United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my geopolitical thriller, We Hold These Truths. I think you'll like it. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!